How come every time I drive a car for the very first time, it's never just stock?
I bring back that sound, the kind that makes you go wow. Bass hit you with the boom pow. I'm party rocking with that old school style, bumping that underground ever since I was a child. Fresh like a farmer's market, I only wear shorts with no pockets. Y'all wanna beast be mocking? Well, you better shut your mouth for zip it and lock it. I'm an originator, smooth flow creator. To the odd ones out, it's who I kicked up. I'm a clown, it's not just a show. With the beastie flow when I walk the microphone.
Hello and welcome to the Saturn Sky, also known as the Pontiac Solstice and the Opel GT. And this one does not have the original ecotec motor in it. So let's go for a drive. No! I stalled it twice. I almost never stall cars, but I did this time. So, the Saturn Sky slash Pontiac Solstice slash Opel GT was a short wheelbase sports car made by General Motors as kind of a last ditch effort to save Pontiac Saturn. And you might know the Solstice from Transformers back in 2007, stuff like that. And people who owned the Solstice and the Sky tend to really love them. I've noticed it over the years that everyone who's had one has been like, man, I shouldn't have sold that. I will say right off the bat, I like the interior a little bit more of the Saturn Sky than I do of the Pontiac Solstice. The Solstice feels kind of cheap inside, and don't get me wrong, this is a, 2000s GM interior, but it is what it is. This has a 2JZ from the Mark IV Toyota Supra inside the Saturn Sky. Here's the exhaust they put on their exhaust to leave the neighborhood, to mute it some, just laying down in the corner. This originally came with a 4-cylinder ecotec engine from General Motors. There was a naturally aspirated version and a turbo version, which was the Saturn Sky Redline, and also the Pontiac Solstice GXP, which is now kind of a collector car. You really don't see those anymore. Paul, who owned this car, has been super cool. I met him at Grid Life South, and for years we said, we need to do a video on your car. He was such a cool dude that he had a timing issue on this engine and then decided to fix it and make it to today's review. So this actually has fender flares made for the Opel GT, and they're all the way from Germany, which is really cool. The top as well took years and years to get. This hardtop is not factory, but it looks phenomenal. This fastback look, I absolutely adore on the Sky. But this car usually is a convertible most of the time. But yeah, this was one of Saturn's last stands, and then Saturn was no more. The Saturn community is such an interesting community because they always mix and match things. They'll turbo engines they never should have. So the car makes somewhere between 600 and 700 horsepower in this tiny little Saturn. And it's never been dynoed, so he said it's probably up to 700 horsepower. It's very tight in here. The windshield is small. The rear windshield is very small, very Viper-ish. That's something I did not expect. The Viper is always very tight inside. This also is a Tremec T56 transmission, something you find in Mustangs, Camaros, Shelbys, GT500, Viper. But this car has been a battle for years and years and years, and he finally made it happen. Oh my God, this thing's fast. This thing's fast. So it's got a Borg-Warner single turbo strapped onto the 2J, and it is pretty laggy. It's a big turbo, but man, when it reels into power, this thing freaking rips. It also has a Mustang rear end in it because, well, the stock one left the chat. It completely blew apart, and he ended up using a Mustang 331 rear end instead. And it really stretches out the gears for a really long experience, but it gives you traction in return. But yeah, it really stretches out the gears to where you can just focus on driving, and as the boost kicks in, you just go along for the ride. However, that does mean you're not doing as much shifting, you're just pulling forever. And that's actually what makes it kind of scary in the other way. Also, the color is absolutely gorgeous. It looks amazing in the sun. I'm so glad he went with a bright color, not something boring like silver or black. It also has 1314 Mustang GT hood vents. That's amazing. This makes it feel like this platform is super slept on, because even though it has this short wheelbase, this thing hooked up and went. This car has a giant smile up front in the grille, and I see why now. It also has a straight pipe exhaust all the way to the back, so you get the beautiful Jay-Z harmonic sound the entire time. Insane. This thing's insane. This is actually my first time driving. This transmission made it to a 2JZ, and it really feels at home. Usually you had to use like the R154s, the CD009s, which are from old Supras or 350Zs, if you don't know. And it just really, really helps out. It also has 2 digital gauges in place of where the old gauges were, and this actually runs on Pro EFI, a standalone that is kind of outdated nowadays. Not a lot of people tune on them, but he made it work. Dude, it is so fast. I'm just going along for the ride and having an amazing time. I totally get why Paul has fought this thing to the death for years. I totally get it. This feels like a Supra with half the weight. And that was first gear roll-on. First gear into second gear, reeling second all the way out. Man, this thing rocks, dude. It feels really natural, and as he said, it's not a cornering car anymore. It's too nose heavy. Oh my God, this car is so much fun. Oh my God. It just works.
It did something good for once.
Dude, I hate the T-Rexing window switch. You're like, eh. Like,
Right hand, left side.
Oh, come on. Imagine being the engineer and being like, wait a minute. That's Paul, the owner of the car, and the tiny little goblet over there. He's actually never seen his car from the outside do this, which is really neat. That's so much fun. Alright, that's a good Saturn. That's a good Saturn. You're not Neptune, you're not Uranus, you're Saturn. It's freaking insane, man. But what's really interesting is that the diff is actually from a V6 Mustang. It's not even the beefier Mustang from the Mustang GT or Shelby's or anything like that. It's the diff that's just been working all along. And the gearing for this really works because due to the short wheelbase and how darty it probably would be with a shorter gear ratio, it kind of gives you the mental preparation to get ready for the ride. And it gives you the preparation to reel this thing out. So I think the combination of the trimming transmissions gearing and the rear end gearing really, really helps this car out. At the same time, if you're going into third gear, you're going to the absolute moon. Work is done by Norm's fiberglass, and that's what really gives this Sky a whole different look, right? It has big flares on it, it looks really fantastic, and it really does make it stick out from the rest. The Sky is just not a platform you see a lot of people use, and Paul thought about LS swapping it, you know, Corvette engine. He thought about doing that, but a lot of people had already kind of thought about or done that. And he was like, you know what? Let's put the freaking Toyota Supra engine in the Sky and just just see what happens. Yeah, this thing, whew, it gets hot in here though, I can tell you that much. But coolant temps are good right now. We're at 187. Honestly, these seats are surprisingly comfortable as well. I was actually shocked because, you know, GM isn't known for good seats, especially in the Corvettes of this era. And yeah, these feel a little more premium than that, which is pretty funny. I also do like the 3-spoke steering wheel that they're rocking. I kind of went into this video thinking, oh, it's gonna be super unbalanced, it's gonna dart all over the road. This also has BC-based coilovers helped out by ZZ Performance. ZZ Performance, or ZZP, I'm really good friends with. I love those guys. They are specialists in the ecotec platform, which means they're usually specialists in the chassis of the ecotec platform. They're able to help Paul out with some modified coilovers, and they made it work. Yeah, I don't want to give this car back. I've had a really good time in this. Really don't want to give it back, but thank you, Paul, for the hospitality so much, man. I've had an amazing time. All right, 2JZ, Saturn Sky. One of my favorite 2JZ swaps I've ever driven. Like, not by it, this was awesome. I've waited years to do this one, but Paul over and over again would say, hey man, something went wrong, I'm sorry. And 2 days ago, he said, something went wrong, I'm sorry, and he fixed it. He fixed it in 2 days and made it happen. And that I have Paul to thank for giving me this amazing experience and putting in the hustle. And on that note, I upload on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays, and I will see you guys next time. Take it easy. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.